Now that I've explained the preferences setup, let's jump into the actual DAW. So I'll start off by explaining the transport controls up here because they're quite important to know what they do. Now, to be honest, if you've used any media player in the past, they should be pretty self-explanatory, most of them. Pressing the play button plays through the project. Pressing stop stops playback. Pressing the record button activates recording, but it would only activate recording for tracks which have been armed, which you do by pressing this button over here, which means if you simply push the record button, you don't want to activate recording for every single one of the tracks in your production. This allows you to choose which track will actually activate recording on. Okay. Now, these over here, they're not really going to be very useful to you at the moment if you're a beginner because you won't know exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll leave them for a later stage. But if you are at the point where you're already producing, one thing that can help you is at the bottom left here, you've got something called the info view. You can close it and open it like this. If you hover over anything in Ableton, it will actually give you a quick explanation of what that does. So in this case, automation arm. Again, you may not know what automation is, but it says, when enabled, manual parameter changes can be recorded, the session clips, and the arrangement. The record session automation preferences determine whether automation will be recorded in all playing clips or only in armed tracks. So this is something that will make sense to you more down the line when we cover automation. Moving on to the top left over here. Starting off with link, that's something that's a slightly advanced tool. You use it essentially when you're using Ableton Live alongside other DAWs, and it would allow you to link the transport controls and the start-stop signals of both DAWs. That's something we're not going to be using at the moment, and most people are never going to use it because you're going to be sticking with one DAW anyway. But if you want to look into it, feel free to do so. Tap allows you to tap and change the tempo according to your taps. Now, just let me explain what tempo is quickly. Tempo determines the speed of your track. So every piece of music and every track has a certain speed. And this is going to be easy for me to demonstrate if you allow me to just put in an audio sample quickly. So I'm just going to drag and drop let's go with a drum loop. Something like this. Okay. Now, if I slow down the tempo, it's going to play through that drum loop slower, which means it's going to have a slower rhythm and a slower speed to what it did before. Okay. And then if I increase the tempo, so the tempo is basically just the speed of your track. Now, for every genre of music, there is a certain general tempo range that they use to produce in that genre of music. So for example, for house music, it tends to be between 118 BPM to 128 BPM. BPM stands for beats per minute, and that's what tempo allows you to change, the beats per minute. Drum and bass would be more in the 170 to 180 beats per minute. Something like psytrance would be in the 140 to 160 beats per minute. So depending on the actual genre that you're producing in, you're going to have to use a different tempo. Okay, moving on. This allows you to simply nudge a song's tempo temporarily. This is something that you're going to be using if you're going to be DJing with Ableton Live, which is something we'll go through in a later lesson. This allows you to change the time signature. Now, this is going into quite advanced music theory, so don't worry about it for now. 4/4 is what you want it in if you're making anything that is vaguely popular, so such as pop music, rock music, house, any electronic music such as drum and bass, psytrance. Usually you're going to be using a 4/4 time signature. And if you want to know more about it, we'll cover it in the music theory video. Now this allows you to turn on a metronome, which helps if you're recording an instrument because it gives you a click track that will help you keep in time with your song's tempo. Once again, if I increase the song's tempo, the click track will play back faster and in time with the new song tempo. Now, another thing you can do here is if I click here, you can select a counting amount of bars. So what that essentially means is if I push the record button, it's going to count me in 1 bar. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, record. And then it will activate recording, which again means you can push record. It gives you 1 bar for you to prepare, and then you start playing your instrument when recording begins. Now, and then a couple more things here. You can change the sound of the click and so on. And finally this. Now this is something that we're going to go over in detail in a later video when we cover the session view. Because for now, this only changes certain settings to do with the session view, which is the view that you see right here. So don't worry about it for now. It's something we'll cover in a later video.